Hey friends, what's up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Mem Gimel, Daf 43 of Masechta Yevamos. Friends, who could tell me what Daf 43 talks about? Well, Yevamos, I guess. Well, the first part of the Daf is talking interesting. It continues talking about, well, it's interesting to an extent. It continues talking about Stam v'achakach machlokas, which is an interesting concept, right? Because it kind of like expands this concept. You know, we've seen a million times that Rabbi Yochanan is well-known opinion of halachic kistam mishnah, that the halacha follows the stam mishnah, but we see that there's another part to that, which is, but if it's followed by a machlokas, then it's not, right? Stam v'achakach machlokas, we don't pass like the stam mishnah. So we're going to continue talking about that shtickle, get into some very technical stuff, Masechta Kelim, but what do you want me to tell you? What are you supposed to do with Masechta Kelim? It's not hard. I mean, you just deal with it, you know? So we're going to deal with it, friends. And then, we dealt with friggin' Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. We can talk about a comb that loses a few teeth, you know what I'm saying? And then, what else are we going to talk about today? Shtickle more about waiting the 3 months thing, and then, kind of shtickle more on that. So friends, we're going to jump in over here. Daf Mem Beis, Amud Beis, 4 lines before it gets wide. Mistamich v'ozil, Rababo akisve de Reb Nochum Shamoy. Friends, you hear this? Rababo was walking and he was leaning on the shoulders of his attendant Reb Nachum. So guess what Reb Nachum was doing? He said, "This is gewaldig." Mankid v'ozil hilchos amine. So Reb Nachum was like, "This is gewaldig. I have Rababo Pashat leaning on me. Doesn't get any closer than this. Well, relatively speaking." And he says, "I'm going to use that as an opportunity to ask Shailis. Let me ask Rabbo Akasha." So Reb Nachum asks, "Machlokas v'achakach stam mai." What's the halacha when you have a machlokas followed by a stam, an argument followed by a simple rule? Amalei halacha kistam. So Rabbo says, well, if you have machlokas v'achakach stam, so the halacha is kistam. Stam v'achakach machlokas. If you have a stam mishnah followed by an argument, my amalei ein halacha kistam. So Bo says, in that case, the halacha would not be like the stam because it's followed by an argument. Stomid demasnisin machlokas b'brayse. Friends, you hear this? This is getting juicy. Excuse me, I have to take off my watch. Well, I don't have to, but you know what I mean. Okay. So what if you hear this, friends? Because a mishnah is assumed to be like on a higher madrege, like a starker madrege than a brayse. So if you have Stomad Masnisin, if you have a Stam Mishnah, with Machlokas beBraisa, but in the Braisa, there's a Machlokas. Mai, Omid Alocha Kistam, so Babo says in that case, the Alocha is like the Stam Mishnah. Machlokas beMasnisin and Stomad beBraisa, what if in the Mishnah it's a Machlokas, but in the Braisa, it's a Stam. It just says what the Alocha is, Mai, Omele. So Babo says, well in that case, V'chi Rebbe lo shano, Rebchia minayin lo. Oh. Well, friends, who is the editor of the Mishnah? Rebbe. Who compiled the Brises? Reb Chia. Wait 1 second. Who was the Tosefta? Was that Reb Chia and Reb Oshaya? I think so. But anyways, but the Brises were sort of gathered together by Reb Chia, who was Rebbe's student, and therefore the question is, Rebbe Bo is saying it doesn't make sense that it would be a machlokas in the Mishnah, i.e. Rebbe, when compiling the Mishnayos, he specified that it was like this one or like that one, it was a machlokas, and Reb Chia somehow would know what the answer is. Right? What do we say? If Rebbe didn't teach what the halacha is, and rather he said it's a machlokas, how would Reb Chia know what the answer is to say it's a stam, that this is the halacha? So therefore, Rabbi was saying it doesn't make sense that there would be a machlokas in a Mishnah, and it would be a stam and a brayse. Amalei v'otnan. So then Reb Nachum asks Reb Oshaya, is this really true that the halacha always follows a stam Mishnah? But v'otnan, we have a Mishnah in Masechta Kelim or something. Gimel Kelim. Yeah, this is a very Kelim-y kind of Mishnah. You ready for Kelim? Well, a masrek, a comb is a kli, it's a vessel. Shel pishtin. So you have a comb that's used for combing flax. Shenitlu shinov, and all of the teeth of the comb were taken out. V'nishtayru bo shtayim. 2 teeth remain tmeos, so the comb is tummy because I guess it's functional. At least those 2 teeth are functional. Ve'achas tahor, but if only 1 tooth remains, well, it's not functional. Now, if you remove, 1 tooth on its own, right? So if you just remove all the teeth, so each individual tooth is going to be able to become tummy because you can use it, right? It's like the keep a clip, right? You keep a clip you can use for anything. So also, I guess it's like the teeth of a comb. Also, you can use the tooth to do things. So now if you have a comb that's used for wool, and the first comb was for flax, this comb is for wool, and in this example, if like every other tooth is missing, tahor, so then the vessel is tahor, i.e. it's not susceptible to becoming tummy. But if there are 3 teeth that remain in the same location, so then the comb is tummy because it's usable. But if like the last tooth was one of the 3 teeth, so then it's tahor, right? Meaning like if you think about a comb, has anybody seen a comb before? Sometimes people use it like in your hair or something like that. So the last one, all the way at the end, is thicker than the rest of them. So so we're saying that when the teeth of the comb fall out, if there are 3 remaining, it's tameh, right? Still a kli. But if one of those 3 is like the one all the way at the end, which is like thicker and like less usable, so then doesn't count, and it would be tahor. Okay. Nitlu beis v'asa'on le-melaket. If you remove 2 of the teeth and you fasten it into tweezers, tmeis. So those are tamei tweezers, or at least they're able to become tamei. Achas v'skina linero lemituach tmeia. If you take 1 tooth of the comb, I think it's called teeth. You know what I'm talking about? I'm not going to explain a comb. What was the last thing I once tried to explain? I tried to explain a straw. Friends, remember when I tried to explain a straw in Masechta Chagiga? How did I do? I don't think I did that well. I think I basically explained the straw that it was like a straw. I'll go upon him. So where am I? So if you take this tooth thing and you use it for, I don't know, you put it, prepare it to be able to use in like a candle, I guess, maybe to move things around or something, or to do something with garments, tmeya, because you can use it. Fine. And yet we hold that the halacha is not like that Mishnah. Oh, so on the one hand we seem to have a stam Mishnah, and the halacha does not seem to be like this stam Mishnah. To which Rabbi says, meh. Don't ask me kashas from that Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan v'Reish Lakish Damitavayu zo ain't a Mishnah, because both Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish say that this is not an authoritative Mishnah. My time, why is it not an authoritative Mishnah? Because it's contradictory. It's self-contradictory. It's an oxymoronic Mishnah. How does that sound? Because on the one hand, the Brisa says that if you have a comb that's for wool and it's missing every other tooth, so it's tahor because it's unusable. But the implication being that if there are 2 of these teeth that remain in one place, it would be tahor, right? If every other one is missing, then it would be tameh, right? If every other one is missing, it's tahor because it's not a kli. But if there are 2 in one place, it would be tameh. It would be a kli. But then it says that if specifically 3 teeth remain on the comb, so then it is tameh, implying that 2 teeth would be tahor. So friends, you guys get the question. It's confusing. On the one hand, we seem to be implying that 2 teeth in one place is tameh. On the other hand, we're saying 2 teeth in one place is tahor. Well, we have to get an answer over here. Which one is it? So because it's oxymoronic, so therefore this Mishnah is pashut, not authoritative. My kusha, we say, wait a second, why is that a question? Dilma, it depends. I mean, apparently a comb that's used for wool, I guess it's more of like a brush. You guys know what a brush is? I think what a brush is like, I think a comb is like more like everything in one row, whereas like a brush I think is like a whole bunch of the things, How do I explain what a brush is? A brush is like kind of, how do I explain a brush? Ich weiß nicht, man. Freaking brush, man. I don't know. It's just like a brush. Okay, you know what, friends? I'm going to assume you all know what a brush is, okay? So like this thing, there's like different rows. So like the outer row might need more of these teeth. So there you would need 3, but the inner row is only 2. So therefore, we're saying it's not necessarily oxymoronic because, it just might depend which row it is. So rather, this is why it's oxymoronic. The Katani, because the Brisa says, the Mishnah says, shenitlu achas achas bifnei atzman tmeus. Because on the one hand, it says that if you take one of the teeth on its own, so then it is tameh, it's a cleave, even though you didn't do anything to prepare it. But then if you look later on in the Brisa, it says, achas v'skina liner, o lemituach tmeya, hiskina ilo hiskina lo. Then later on in the Brisa, at the end, it says that if you take one tooth and you prepare it to be used in a candle or for garments, so then it's tameh, implying, but if you didn't specifically prepare it, then it would be tahor. So on the one hand, right, we're saying that this individual tooth of the comb would be tameh. On the other hand, we're saying it would be tahor unless you prepare it. So that's contradictory. So therefore, we throw out the whole Mishnah. Omar Abai, my kusha. Abai says that's not necessarily a good question either. Dilma b'katayu below katayu. It depends if it has a handle or not. If it has a handle, you don't have to prepare anything. If it doesn't have a handle, you have to prepare it. Omar Papu, my kusha v'dilma b'katinto ba'alimto. But Papa can also say it depends if it's thin or if it's thick. If it's thin, it needs to be prepared. If it's thick, it doesn't. So Keilu, there's different ways that you can explain why it's not contradictory. So, what is the problem? Why is this Brisa unauthoritative then? Why is this Mishnah unauthoritative then? Because the people are very medactic in Mishnayos. They'll tell you that at the end of the Mishnah it says Zodev Reb Shimon, that this is specifically the opinion of Reb Shimon, i.e., it's not a Stam Mishnah, it's the opinion of Reb Shimon, and we don't necessarily paskin like that. Shalach Reb Chia bar Oven, so Reb Chia bar Oven sent Ma'arsin Toch Gimel V'chein Osen Maise, that says Reb Chia bar Oven that within 3 months you can get engaged, right? You can get engaged within 3 months, and this is what we do. And similarly, Rebbe Elazar would teach us Mishum Chanina Agadol. In the name of Chanina Agadol, Rubo Shal Rishon, Rubo Shal Shlishi V'Mtzoi Shalom. You have to wait the majority of the first month, the majority of the third month, and the entire middle month, but not necessarily 3 full months. A Meimar Shar Le'ares B'Yom Tishim. A Meimar would allow somebody whose husband died and she wants to get remarried. So on day 90, Kilu, 3 months would, right, meaning that, right, what? A Meimar would basically say you don't have to wait until after 90 days, even on day 90, you could already get engaged. So Rav Ashi says to Meimar, so you have to wait 3 months, excluding the day that, if we talk about Ruvain and Sarah, the day that Ruvain died, and excluding the day that Sarah gets engaged to Shimon. I.e., if I understand correctly, the point is that, what's 3 months? Well, I don't know, I guess if you have, potentially it has to be, I don't know, I guess 2 29-day months and a 30-day month. So that's what, 30 times 3 would be 90, minus 2 is like 88, but then you have to add the day that Ruvain died and also the day that they get engaged doesn't count, so it has to be 90 full days. Whereas a Meimar would allow women to get engaged already on the 90th day. So, and for the Gemara, Haulinin Minekes Itmar. So the Gemara says, so a Meimar responds, that the exclusion of the engagement day and of the death day, that's not talking about a widow, that's talking about a nursing woman, right? We had learned that if Ruvain dies and Sarah is nursing and Shimon wants to marry Sarah, so you have to wait 24 months, right? So regarding that, so the Rav Shmuel, the Rav Shmuel both say you have to wait 24 months with the excluding the day that the Yingol was born and excluding the day that they got engaged. So that's what we're talking about, excluding those days. But with regarding to Erison, it doesn't necessarily need to be, right, but with regarding a widow, it doesn't necessarily need to be, 90 days or 3 months excluding those 2 days. Even on day 90, you can get engaged. But 1 second, there was that guy. He made a Suda because he got engaged on day 90. And I guess he got engaged to a woman whose husband died. And it was day 90. And Rav, said, you can't do that. So Aisudis Nisuin Avoy. Well, that was a wedding. Everyone would agree that you can't make a wedding within the 90 days, but Erusin would be okay. The halacha is the halacha is, look, when it comes to Meinekes, you have to wait 24 months, excluding the day that the Yingel was born and excluding the day that they got engaged. And also when it comes to a widow, you must wait 90 days, 3 months, excluding the day that Reuven died and excluding the day that Sarah and Shimon get engaged. So now the Gemara is going to move on to explain the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Right? If we remember from the Mishnah and Daf Mem Aleph Mud Aleph all the way at the bottom, it says Rabbi Yossi Omer Kol Noshim Yisaysu Chutz Min Almoneh Mipnei Evil. Right? That all women can get engaged, right? Whether they were widowed, whatever it is, right? Anybody can get engaged at any time, even within 3 months, because it's only engagement, right? So any of the women can get engaged at any time. Just that a woman who her husband passed away, now she's a widow, so she shouldn't get engaged within 30 days. Okay, fine. So now the Gemara wants to understand. Where am I? Now the Gemara wants to understand Rabbi Yossi's opinion. So. Okay, so it says the Gemara that Rabbi Yossi says that everybody can get engaged except for a widow. Now, Omer Rav Chizde, so says Rav Chizde, Kavachomer. Rav Chizde says, I don't understand. In a place where you're not allowed to do laundry, you're permitted to get engaged. We'll explain what that is in a minute. If you have an almona that, after Shiva, but within Shloshin, she's allowed to do laundry, right? So then certainly she should be able to get engaged, right? Meaning, okay, let's go back there for a second. Mahi, what's this case where you're not allowed to do laundry, but you can get engaged? It's not. We learned to Masechta Tainis. Friends, this is cool, right? We were just talking about Shiva and Shloshim. We learned that in Masechta Moed Katan. Now we're talking about Tainis. We learned that in Masechta Tainis. So the Tananis, we learn in the Mishnah Masechta Tainis, Shabbos Shechol Tisha B'Av B'Socha. So the week that Tisha B'Av falls out in it, also the Saper L'Chabes. So you're not allowed to get a haircut that week. You're not allowed to do laundry that week. On Thursday you're allowed to get a haircut. You're allowed to do laundry. Oh, by the way, if nobody noticed, I got a haircut. Let's go weiter. So on Thursday you're allowed to get a haircut and do your laundry because of for the Shabbos. Vitanya, we talk learn in the Brayse Kodem Azman Hazeh, that before this time, and we're assuming for now what that means is before Tisha B'Av, i.e. the week leading up to Tisha B'Av. Ha'amim maitim b'hiskeim, so they do less work. That's stressful. Miliso militein milivnos flintoa, they do less business. They don't build, they don't plant. Ma'arsin, but you can get engaged. Avalokonsin, but you don't get married. V'nosin sudaserisin, you don't make a big meal out of it. Fine. So now, So on the one hand, we're saying that the week of Tisha B'Av, you don't do laundry, but yet you're allowed to get engaged. So Memela, if during Shloshim, this widow is allowed to do laundry, Memela, she should be able to get engaged. So Kitani Kodim to Kodim. So we say no. When it says that you're allowed to get engaged, that's talking about the week before the week of Tisha B'Av. Okay. Or Murav of Kodim to Kodim Nami, but still, I could ask a similar question. Fine. So the week before the week of Tisha B'Av, so you're allowed to get engaged. But still, the week before the week of Tisha B'Av, so we're saying that you're not allowed to, right? You can't do a business during that week, and yet you're allowed to get engaged. So a widow within shloshim, that she's allowed to do business, certainly she should then be able to get engaged. So therefore, we're asking a kasha and Rabbi Yossi, like, why are you making such a big deal about a widow during her shloshim that she can't get engaged? I don't know, like, why not? She's allowed to do business, she's allowed to do laundry, why can't she get engaged? So Rabbi Yossi, friends, you hear that? Friends, do you hear that? Rabbi Yossi, actually in the Mishnah, he's not talking about Eirison. He's not talking about getting engaged. He's talking about getting married. And therefore, within Shloshim, you shouldn't be getting married because it's a big simcha and she's still within the 30 days since her husband passed away. Okay, fine. So we're saying that all of the, right? So therefore, Rabbi Yossi's opinion is that all of the women can get married except for an almoneh within the first 30 days because it's a simcha. But one second. Doesn't Rabbi Yossi hold, you have to know who the father is? Is the father Reuven? Is the father Shimon? And if it's within, less than 3 months, then how can they just get married? What about knowing who the father is? So, and for the Gemara, by saying Leisle, well, either you could say he's not so concerned. He doesn't really care who the father is. By saying Le'olim Isle, or you could say, no, he does care who the father is. Ve'ema, Rabbi Yossi Omer kol arusis grushis yinosu. You could say that, okay, what Rabbi Yossi is saying in the Mishnah is that any engaged woman who is divorced can get married immediately because she was only engaged, so she's memele not pregnant, and she's also divorced, so there's no mourning period, so she can get engaged, so she can get married immediately, and there's no issue about knowing who the father is because memele she's not pregnant, and but if she's a widow, so then don't get married within 30 days because it's a simcha. Fine. If that's the case, I know Rabbi Yehuda. But then isn't he saying the same thing as Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah? Who basically, the only nafkamina seems to be between, the only nafkamina between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi seems to be around, this widow. The pashtus of the Mishnah was talking about engagement, erison. Now, if we're saying that it's talking about nisuin, Rabbi Yehuda, of course, would also say that you can't get married. A widow cannot get married within 30 days. Everyone agrees. Within 30 days you can't get married. Like it's a simcha. You're still in like a stage of mourning. So, isn't Rabbi Yossi then saying the same thing as Rabbi Yehuda? Ike benayu nisua le'oris. Well, the nafkamina between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda is regarding, can a married woman, right, a woman who was married, can she get engaged within this period, within 3 months? Rabbi Yehuda says, yeah, a married woman can get engaged. Sure, what's the problem with getting engaged? Rabbi Yossi whereas Rabbi Yossi says that no, a married woman cannot get engaged, even though it's only engaged, but nonetheless we're concerned, if you get engaged, maybe you'll end up getting married, and we don't, then there's issues within 3 months, so therefore, so that's the difference. Rabbi Yehuda says that a married woman can nonetheless get engaged with it, right? A woman who was married, right? Reuven and Sarah were married, and then he died. So now within this period, Sarah would be able to get engaged. Rabbi Yossi says no, she cannot. That's the difference. Does Rabbi Yossi really hold that a woman who is married would be forbidden to get engaged during this period? But we learn in advice Rabbi Yossi Omer says Rabbi Yossi that all of the women can get engaged. Just not a widow, evil, because of the mourning. She's still within a period of mourning. How long is this period of mourning? 30 days. And nobody should be getting married until they wait 3 months. So apparently it seems that Rabbi Yossi is saying that everybody can get, all of these women can get engaged. Hi, my kusha. But now, one second, what exactly is the question? One second, what? Because Rabbi Yossi says that all the women can get engaged, that's why you think that he means that all the women can get engaged? Is that any stronger than our Mishnah? Friends, what did our Mishnah say? Our Mishnah said exactly that. Our Mishnah said that according to Rabbi Yossi, all of the women can get engaged, except for a widow within 30 days. And what did we say? It's not talking about engagement. To which we said, oh yeah, that's just talking about divorced, engaged women, that they're allowed to get married. Meaning, we basically changed the entire words of the Mishnah to say it's not talking about Erison, it's talking about Nisuin, and it's talking about divorced engaged women. Hachanami, kol arusas grushas yinasu. So here also, when it says that all the women can get engaged, I'll say it means that all of the divorced, engaged women can get married. Elimi Seifa. Okay, fine. So maybe the kasha is from the Seifa of the Brisa. The Katani, it says, that nobody can get married, right? That none of these women can get married until 3 months. In Suveu Delo Itruse Shapidomi, implying that, okay, they can't get married for 3 months, but they would be able to get engaged, implying that Rabbi Yossi is saying that these women can get engaged. So you can explain like this. Rabbi Yossi Omer Kol Arusas Grusas Yinasu Chutz Min Ha'amona Mipnei Ha'Ivul. So you could explain the Brisa like this. So Rabbi Yossi is saying that all of the divorced, engaged women can get married right away, but not a widowed engaged woman. Mipnei Ha'Ivul, she can't get married right away because she's still in a period of mourning. B'chama Ivul Shalah, how long was she in this period of mourning? Shloshim Yom, for 30 days. V'nesuas lo yisarsu, and married women cannot get engaged until after 3 months. So we want to say that according to Rabbi Yossi, what he is saying is that basically when he says in the Mishnah that these women can get engaged, really what it means is that divorced engaged women can get married right away, but widowed engaged women cannot get married right away because they're still in a period of mourning. However, married women cannot even get engaged. They have to wait 3 months. But now, frekti Gemara, does a woman who is engaged and then the man who she was engaged to dies, does she actually have a status of mourning? If you have a fellow who is engaged, if she dies, he's not an onain. If he's a kohen, he doesn't have the status of an onain. If in terms of like doing avodah in the Beis Hamikdash, and he does not become tometer if he's a kohen. And also her, she doesn't have the practice of being an onenes. I believe that's talking about. Fine, an onen. I think that nafkamin is like if she like goes back to her father's house and eating kodshim, and she doesn't become tamei. I think this came up recently. Where did this come up? And Daf Chov Tes, and Rashi had said it's specifically talking about the Shalosh Regalim, whatever it is. But there doesn't seem to be a status of mourning. Mesa Eno Yorsha, right? If she dies, he does not inherit her. Meis Hu, if he dies, Gova Ksubasa, she can collect her ksuba if that's the arrangement. So there doesn't seem. So meaning we had this whole thing about this almona who, right, this widow who's a grusha, so she doesn't get married right away because she's in mourning. But like, what even is the mourning when it comes to if we're talking about an almona from the Erusin? So 1 second. So Ella Tanoi. Okay, so 1 second. So going back to our original question, what was our original question? So, our original question was, how could Rabbi Yossi be saying that this woman in the first 30 days is not allowed to get engaged? Because that this woman within the first 30 days, that this widow within the first 30 days cannot get engaged because this widow because she's in a period of mourning. So we said, but how could that be, right? When it comes to Tisha B'Av, right, where you're not allowed to do laundry, you're not allowed to do work, and yet you're allowed to get engaged. Certainly here, where she's allowed to do work, she's allowed to do laundry, she should be able to get engaged. So we say, actually, this whole concept of being able to get engaged, right, before Tisha B'Av, is actually Machlokas Tanoi. That there is an opinion that says you're not allowed to get engaged. And Rabbi Yossi holds like that. So, where am I? El Tanoi, Staka Machlokas Tanoim, the Tana is we learn in the Brisa Rosh Chodesh Atainis, from Rosh Chodesh of until Tisha B'Av, Ha'amemaitin me'iskein, so the people do less business, miliso militein, milivlos v'lentoa, they don't build, they don't plant, umili aris, umilisa, and they also don't get engaged, and they also don't get married. So we see that there is an opinion that you don't get engaged, and Rabbi Yossi is like that, and he's saying also that this woman within the first 30 days of her husband passing away, she doesn't get engaged either. Shabbos Chol Tisha B'Av B'socha, the week that Tisha B'Av falls out in it, also the Sapil Chabitz, you can't get a haircut, you can't do your laundry. And everybody says even the whole month is Asr. So we see it's taka machlokas tanoim, and Rabbi Yossi holds like the opinion that you're not allowed to get engaged before Tisha B'av, and you're also not allowed to get engaged when you are a widow within the first 30 days. Maskiv Rav Ashi asks the kasha, one second, mamish. How do we know that when this brisa is saying that you're not allowed to get married, that you're not allowed to get engaged before Tisha B'av? How do you know what mamish means not to get engaged? How do you know that their opinion really is that you're not allowed to get engaged before Tisha B'av? Maybe she's saying you can't make a sudas erisin, you can't make a feast during this period, but just to get engaged maybe is okay. But one second, in the same breath it said not to get engaged and also not to get married. Are you saying that it means just don't make a suda, but you're allowed to get married otherwise? Right? So how could it be, right, if you're going to say that not getting engaged means just not making a suda, but you could still get engaged, so then does not getting married just mean don't make a suda, but you're allowed to get but you would be allowed to get married? I mean, certainly not. That's going to be simcha. So you could say, look. But the Gemara says, look, you can answer. So I understand why, even nisuin, right, getting married, even without a suda, still there's happiness and that would not be allowed. But I could argue, but if you're getting engaged and you're not making a big suda, a big to-do about it, I guess it isn't like a wedding. It's not on the same madrega. I guess it wouldn't be considered enough simcha. So maybe that could be nonetheless okay, right? Maybe the Brisa is just saying don't have a suda, but you can get engaged during that time. And maybe there is no machlokas about getting engaged, and everybody agrees that you can get engaged before Tisha B'av. In which case, we're back to our original question of why is Rabbi Yossi saying that this woman is not allowed to get engaged during her 30 days of mourning. So rather says Rav Ashi, listen. Shiny avelus chodsha me'avelus chadash me'avelus yishana v'shiny avelus derabim me'avelus yachid. Rashi says, look, here's the thing: you can't really compare Tisha B'av to mourning your husband. Right? Tisha B'av is like an old kind of mourning, and because it's an older mourning, it's not as stringent, right? And even if you can get engaged when it comes to Tisha B'av, when it comes to somebody who just passed away, you wouldn't necessarily be able to get engaged. And also it says Shani Avelus Derab Avelus Yochid, right? The communal mourning is maybe not as it doesn't have any specific details of stringencies as opposed to an individual mourning for a specific person who passed away. And therefore, you could argue that even if by Tisha B'av, yes, maybe you can get engaged, but not necessarily by when you're mourning your husband who just passed away, you would not be able to get engaged. That is why Rabbi Yossi says that you cannot get engaged during this period. So it is, in fact, talking about getting engaged. Rabbi Yossi says that a woman who's a widow cannot get engaged during this period. Friends, that was Daf Mem Gimel, Masechta Yevamos. At the first part of the Daf, we continued discussing the concept of when you have a Stam Mishnah followed by Machlokas followed by a Stam Mishnah. We had this thing in the Kalim with different types of combs and brushes and all sorts of things. And we discussed getting married within 3 months, right? There were some opinions that maybe you can even get married within less than 3 months. There were opinions that you can get engaged in less than 3 months. But then we had said that no, Dafka, it means the 3 months, including the day that Ruvain died and the day that they got engaged, i.e. a full 90 days. And then we analyzed the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, who said that a widow is not able to get engaged within the first 30 days out of concern for mourning. We asked questions based on Mishnah in Tainus. We then kind of had a little bit of a circuitous route where we thought that maybe what Rabbi Yossi was saying that they can't get married, but ultimately we said no, it's talking about that you can't get engaged, and it's just not a question from Tainus, because Tainus is an old mourning, it's a public mourning, as opposed to when somebody's mourning their husband, it's a new mourning, and it's an individual mourning, which is more stringent. Friends, that was Daf Mem Gimel of Masechta, I think it was Mem Gimel of Masechta, Masechta Yevamos. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.